What is going on, guys? Too Fast Joe here. Today is a discussion that is long overdue. If y'all have seen my Sonic X review, you would know that we have compared Sonic X Season 3 to Dragon Ball GT.
I would ironically describe it as a good version of Dragon Ball GT. In fact, there's a lot of similarities. A grand tour exploring the universe to gather 7 magical items, the protagonist having the power to turn super, the major villain coming in later in the series, a new character to help the gang navigate space, and an annoying kid that shouldn't be here. The only thing was that Season 3 was fun, while GT, well, it's GT, so it speaks for itself.
Well, today, with the help of my friend Generation Defenders, we are going to compare the two series and see once and for all which series did it best, Sonic X Season 3 or Dragon Ball GT Season 1. Let's find out. No better place to start than the beginning. Season 3 kicks out with a fight between Super Sonic and the leader of the Meta-X, Dark Oak. After realizing Super Sonic can't defeat Dark Oak, he uses Chaos Control to scatter the 7 Chaos Emeralds throughout the galaxy. Not having the powers of the Emeralds, Sonic collapses and falls back down to Earth. Dark Oak comments that this is only going to delay the inevitable, and before taking off, he orders his Meta-X to retrieve the planet egg. Within the first 2 minutes, Dark Oak had already defeated Super Sonic, which shows that he is more of a threat than previous villains. This is how you kick off a season. A fight between Super Sonic and the big baddie would have normally been the end of an arc, but in this season, it's the beginning. In previous seasons, Sonic would have gathered all 7 Chaos Emeralds, the villain is defeated, and the day is saved. But not here. In the first 2 minutes, Super Sonic is defeated, showing us the audience that it's going to take more than the powers of the Chaos Emeralds to defeat this new villain. Back on Mobius, we are introduced to our new character, Cosmo, who crash landed here on Earth looking for the help of Sonic. Her planet, along with many others, have been destroyed by the Meta-X. She is hoping with Sonic's help and with the powers of the Chaos Emerald, they can finally defeat the Meta-X. Just then, one of the Meta-X had made its way down to the surface and is starting to destroy the planet. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles had gave it their all, but was unable to defeat this Meta-X without the powers of the Chaos Emeralds. Then, a light appeared from underneath the planet, and out came the planet egg, which is the source of the planet's life force. Without it, the planet will wither and die. This is how the Meta-X were able to destroy all the other planets and drain them of their energy. The Meta-X took off with the planet egg and flew off into space. Now, our heroes are on a time limit. They must now retrieve all 7 Chaos Emeralds and the planet egg before the planet loses all of its energy and all life on Mobius perish. I should probably mention the human characters at this point. It has been 6 years since Sonic and his friends have left Earth, and Chris has found a way to cross over into Sonic's dimension without the use of the Chaos Emeralds. But somehow, once Chris crosses over into Sonic's dimension, he reverts back into a kid? It doesn't make any sense within the show to turn Chris back into a kid. Personally, I would love to see teenage Chris interact with Sonic and friends. But unfortunately, this is a kids show, and you do need a kid character for the kids. Also, he's wearing his same outfit from the previous seasons? That doesn't make any sense. Did Vanilla just take a bunch of Chris's clothes before they left? That's kinda weird. If you're gonna turn Chris back into a kid, that's fine, but wouldn't it make more sense to give him an outfit that would fit this new world? Overall, this is the best opening to any Sonic media ever. It establishes the plot, our characters' goals, and the villain is more intimidating than previous villains. Well, that was Sonic's X opening. Let's see how GT opened.
In GT, we start off with Goku and Oob training in the Lookout with an older Pilaf gang sneaking in to steal the Black Star Dragon Balls. So in less than 10 minutes, we already have problems. First, why weren't the Black Star Dragon Balls ever mentioned before? Especially if they are more powerful and more dangerous than the regular Dragon Balls. Second, why are these planet-blowing wish orbs just out in the open? If they are so dangerous, shouldn't there be more security measures? Third, if the Pilaf gang knew about these Black Star Dragon Balls, why didn't they try to steal them before? Why now, when it's been a few decades since we've seen them in the Demon Piccolo saga? Fourth, Dende can heal. Dende can fucking heal! Fifth, Oob just leaves? What the hell? The ending of Z was just dedicated to Goku leaving his family to train Oob to be the next protector of Earth, and he just leaves? This just spits on the ending of Z, and if anyone knows what they do with Oob, then you know what a wasted character he becomes. Finally...
Wow, the room got a lot bigger somehow.
Goku turns into a kid again. This is just pure character regression. With Chris, he had to be the kid protagonist of the group, but GT already had Pan as the annoying kid protagonist of the group, so why make Goku a kid again? And it's not like he was actually turned into a kid like in Dragon Ball. No, he's clearly just an adult trapped in a kid's body. I hate it when characters have to regress just for the plot's sake. I've only seen one show who did regression well, and that's Teen Titans. In Teen Titans, when Raven is turned into a child, it's when her powers were drained from opening the portal for Trigon. But most importantly, her child form was to symbolize how powerless she felt against her father. Her form was to represent her state of mind. So when she does turn back to normal, it shows how she regains her powers and shows how Trigon no longer has any power over her. Goku became a kid again because the producers wanted to capture original Dragon Ball's tone, but they missed what made the original Dragon Ball work, and just regressed Goku to a kid without giving him his original kid charm. So after GT's worst decision, we are then reintroduced to the Dragon Ball gang with Trunks, Pan, and Goten. How dare you, GT! Blast off into space. Oh wait, there's a storyline where Goku's being kidnapped. That happened and went nowhere. We get a glimpse of Trunks not taking his job as president of Capsule Corp seriously, which does nothing for his character arc. The only character whose arc is set up is Pan, who wants to prove she's a capable fighter. Which, check out my Why I Hate GT Pan video to see how that goes. But after all the reintroductions and filler, we finally head off into space. Oh, and Giru pops up and joins the gang in episode 5. So both stories begin with reintroducing characters after a period of time, having one of the main characters regress into a kid again, their homeworld planet being on the verge of exploding, setting up a grand tour to recover 7 magical orbs scattered across the galaxy, and introducing a new character that serves as the team's navigator. But which one does it better? Well, this point has to go to Sonic X because it does so much more in the beginning. The main villain is set up from the beginning, while we aren't introduced to Baby until episode 22. The Meta-Rex proves to be a threatening universal threat in just the first 5 minutes of the show, proving to be more powerful than Sonic's strongest form. Not only that, but the background characters are more prominent in Sonic X. In GT, we are only focused on Goku, Pan, and Trunks. So if you are a Gohan fan, Vegeta fan, or want Goten to be more prominent, or even are curious about Oob, you are just screwed. But even then, Goku's still the center focus of the team. And he's not even Z Goku. He's a weird adult trapped in a kid's body Goku who acts like a kid but not at the same time. Pan and Trunks don't get to have their time to shine or great character moments through GT, so we are stuck with Goku, which if you are not a fan of this new Kid Goku, you are screwed. Finally, Cosmo's introduction is so much better than Giru's. Giru just pops the fuck out of nowhere, eats the dragon radar, and just tags along, which I always found weird as a kid. Cosmo crash lands into Morbius, has a mysterious backstory which connects to the main villains of the story, and is a team equal where Giru just comes off as the team's wacky mascot. So overall, Sonic X has the better character introduction, tone, and setup, while GT is just slow, has issues in the setup, even in the lore of the show, and actually regresses their characters and disrespects their secondary character. Which, speaking of which... Goku's arc is supposed to be finding the Black Star Dragon Balls to prevent the Earth from blowing up. But with all the pit stops he does, it feels more like an afterthought than a priority. If the character isn't invested in his goal, then why should I? Pan wants to prove she's a competent fighter, but she never gets to have that spotlight moment when she finally gets a win. So she comes across as whiny, a damsel in distress, and is more of a liability to her team rather than an essential member of the team. Trunks doesn't even have an arc. He's just there because he was forced to go by Vegeta. He's just there to be the group's mechanic, which is so boring, especially if we compared him to his future counterpart. Wouldn't it be cool if throughout the journey, Trunks slowly gets an arc where he learns responsibility and develops his future counterpart's personality? In the beginning, we establish he doesn't take his job seriously. The Grand Tour could have been his way of being a more competent, responsible leader. Giru is just there to sell toys. Not to mention, these four barely have moments together. I remember in Dragon Ball Z, Gohan and Piccolo's teacher-student relationship, Goten and Trunks' friendship, Goku and Vegeta's rivalry. In here, it just feels like a basic Saturday morning cartoon team. Goku the leader, Pan the girl, Trunks the smart one, and Giru the team mascot. It feels basic, cookie cutter, and just boring.
In Sonic X, we have episodes where it's just dedicated to our characters interacting with each other, established character arcs, and even moments when characters go bad. Hell, even Eggman has some great moments with the Sonic game, Shadow Returns, and we even got to dive into our villain's backstory and psyche. But what makes Sonic X characters better than GT is that everyone shares the spotlight. As mentioned before, Goku gets the main focus, but in Sonic X, everyone gets episodes to themselves. Even Chris gets an episode dedicated to himself where he remembers how useless he was in past seasons. And by the end of the episode, proves that he could be an essential part of the team. Take notes, Pan! Which brings me to my next point. Characters actually having development. Chris went from an annoying kid character to helping Tails as a group mechanic. Eggman becomes more helpful towards the Sonic game and actually helps them save the world. But the stars of Season 3 has to go to Tails and Cosmo. Tails developed a romantic relationship with Cosmo which ends in tragedy. In the first 2 seasons, Tails was replaced by Chris as Sonic's best friend. He was still a good character, but he was treated more as a background character. But here, not only is he present, but he develops into a protector. I mean, look at this guy. He being thrown around by the ultimate life form, beaten and bruised, but he still stands tall to protect his girl. But the real star of Season 3 has to go to Cosmo. She gets a tragic arc where she starts off as a scared, fragile girl who escaped the extermination of her planet. But throughout the series, you see her slowly get stronger with the Sonic game, which ultimately ends up with her sacrifice at the end. So ultimately, the point has to go to Sonic X. The characters are developed and share the spotlight. Everyone is remembered, respected, and new characters get to shine. Meanwhile, GT regresses their characters, spotlight is given to the main character, and character arcs are either non-existent or don't go anywhere. Now let's see who had the better fights. Oh come on, you can't just... Okay, yeah, GT, but we still gotta talk about who... So yeah, it's kinda hard to compete with one of the most famous shonen animes when it comes to fighting. Especially within the first 2 seasons where it was treated more as a fun slice-of-life filler for kids. But Sonic X did have some good fights too. I mentioned before, the fight between Super Sonic and Dark Oak helps not only to establish the main conflict of the season, but also establish the power levels of our villains. The animation in Season 3 also improves, not only being more smooth, but more polished than ever before. Even small fights had unique environments and unique fighting styles.
In GT, a lot of animation changed from previous seasons. Characters now span more muted colors with really bad designs, and the environments are just bland to look at. Weirdly, a lot of GT's fights in the beginning either happen indoors, against very weak enemies, or have characters try to sneak around the villains rather than just knock them out. Did the show just forget these are Saiyans? Why are they sneaking to get their rocket back? Just knock them out and leave. Which, speaking of which, in a weird way that is never explained, Goku and Trunks barely go Super Saiyan in their fights, even when they are struggling with their opponents. It's very distracting and it takes you out of the fights as you wonder why they don't just go Super Saiyan to win. And as mentioned before, a lot of these fights happen inside. In the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, fights happen outside so there's more room to move around and characters can have more freedom to use their special attacks. GT has characters be restricted to their environment, which if you're going to do that, then make up for it with either more unique techniques or more interesting choreography that utilizes the environment. So it seems like even the fights of GT took a back stance. in the beginning. Once Baby is introduced, we return to the Z formula, where characters are allowed to use classic ki blasts, flying, and transformation that Dragon Ball Z is known for. Although I praise Sonic X for their improved animation and fights, GG does have the more interesting fights that Shonen is known for. Point goes to GT.
But we can't have a fight without the villains.
What can I say about Baby that hasn't been said already? He's the saving grace of GT. His arc was the one that brought back the GT audience. He's one of the best GT villains, if not the best, and he is one of the first things people think of when mentioning GT. And yeah, he's all of that. I actually do think Baby is the best GT villain, especially compared to the rest of the roster. He has a great backstory that also ties into the Saiyans, which is both clever and tragic, goes through his own negative arc, and also was successful in enslaving Earth and the Saiyans. Personally, I love villains who complete their plans, and it's up to the heroes to bring their empire down. Not only that, but Baby also became the monster he always despised. He hated the Saiyans who enslaved his planet with their monkey forms, but by the end of his arc, he became an angry monkey who conquered a planet that wasn't his. So what could go wrong? Well, how about his personality? Although Baby has a great backstory that can make him a tragic villain, he's still a one-note sniveling villain who wants to enslave the universe. There really is nothing much to him other than he's a bad guy, and he has a very ugly design until he possesses Vegeta, which improves until it doesn't. In Z, Vegeta was the prince of all Saiyans who was prideful, full of himself, but slowly became a Z fighter the more he fought with the Earthlings, as he went through ups and downs in his character arc. Frieza was a space tyrant who strikes fear into people's hearts just by the mere mention of his name, and had a stellar final form design. Cell went through multiple personality shifts with his new transformations that he himself had to work for and hunt down. And Majin Buu was a new type of villain that was both childish, innocent, and deadly at the same time, until the darkness consumed him, revealing pure chaos into the universe. Baby is just sniveling, which is weird because he does have the potential to be a deep, flawed, and interesting villain, one who wants understandable revenge on the race who was responsible for his people's extinction, but also became the one thing he hated. Because of that, Baby is a great concept, but I think a lot of us can agree that Goku Black did it better.
The Merex are a large army of robots and cyborgs. They are led by Dark Oak and only have one mission: to extinguish all animal-based life forms. They have traversed the galaxy, stealing planet eggs and other objects of great power, leaving the whole world dead or dying in their wake. But the Merex weren't always like this. Much like Baby, they are a product of war. Many years ago, on a planet called Planet Greengate, there was a war raged on against these plant-like aliens and an unknown animal-based aliens. These plant-based aliens were Cosmos' people, and they were fighting a losing battle. The commander of this army, Luca, found a way to harness the power of his own planet egg to give them a power boost so they could remain in their movement form to fight longer. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that they could turn to giant kaijus. But by transforming into these kaijus, they run the risk of dying. But by using the power of the planet egg, they can maintain their transformation. But by removing the planet egg, the planet starts to die. All the males stayed behind to fight the war, while all the females took off into space. Fearing what her husband Luca would do with this newfound power, Earth thought it would order a nuclear strike on the planet to extinguish all the males. The attack nearly wiped out every male on the planet. Luca, along with 4 others, survived the attack, and they will go on to become the Metarex's commander, led by Luca, who now goes by Dark Oak. Now that we know about the Metarex's backstory, how were they our villains? Well, I could confidently say that no other villains have been able to push our heroes to their limits. Normally, Sonic would be so cheerful, even in the face of grave danger. He always had a positive attitude, believing everything will be okay in the end. But in this scene, he sees that Chris has been knocked out and Cosmo is being held captured. This was enough to break our hero's smile. With his negative emotions and the power of the fake emeralds, Sonic transformed into Dark Sonic, a much more sinister, murderous Sonic that would take pleasure in the destruction of his enemies. We have never seen Sonic like this before. and it was because of Metarex' nefarious ways that broke our hero. Not to mention that the Metarex has a body count that would make even Mephiles jealous. There has been so many deaths because of the Metarex. So many deaths. So both villains are very similar. Both have tragic backstories and both are major threats to their series. But who do we choose? You probably think we'll pick the Metarex, as they are more complex villains and show up in the beginning and have a personal connection to one of our main heroes. Well, those are very important elements for a villain to have. We had to give this point to Baby, because of one element he has over the Metarex: memorability. When you mention GT to someone, one of the first things that they think of is Baby. He's in most of the posters for GT, is considered the best part of GT for many, and people till this day still has him as one of the best Dragon Ball villains in general. Although the Metarex are more complicated villains, a lot of the fanbase forget about the Metarex when talking about villains. They mainly bring up villains like Mephiles, Infinite, Eggman. The Metarex are hardly even mentioned when talking about Sonic villains. I'm gonna be honest with you, before writing this script, the only Metarex name I can remember was Dark Oak. I couldn't even remember the other four's name. All I remember was their relationship with Cosmo, their battle with Sonic at the beginning and the end, and their looming threat over the galaxy. Having your villains be complex is important, but one of the worst things you could do as a writer is make your villains forgettable. They're villains. You can have a lot of fun writing them, whether it be their designs, their personality, their motivation, their backstory, or their schemes. Make a villain that not only your audience will fear, but a character that they will remember. I feel like if we could combine both the Metarex's complexity, introduction, and involvement to the story with Baby's presentation, I think we will have a great complex villain. As of right now, GT does have the better villain. Baby may have issues, and Zamasu did have a better negative arc. Hell, even Granola had a better arc too. But you can't deny the impact that Baby had, not only in GT, but at the Dragon Ball as a whole. He's the only GT character that wasn't a Goku that was put into Dragon Ball FighterZ. So far we have 2 points to Sonic X and 2 points to GT, which leads us to the tiebreaker. It all comes down to this, and it's the most important part of the two series. Who had the better Grand Tour? Well, seeing that GT does stand for Grand Tour, it makes sense to start with that first.
In GT, we traveled to 8 planets in the first arc of the series. And I'm just gonna say it, these planets are boring. Not just design-wise, but plot-wise, this Grand Tour just feels like an entire arc of boring filler. Each planet's issues feels like a downgrade to what we were getting in Z. We went from galactic tyrants wiping out races to a spoiled king taxing their citizens too high, preventing a future apocalypse to preventing an arranged marriage, stopping an ancient evil who even the gods feared to stopping an evil trio of dancing brothers who's also in a cult for some reason. We spend an average of 3 to 5 whole episodes on each planet, which feels like a drag. Remember how the Earth is going to blow up in a year and time is essential? Never mind that, we have a wedding to stop. I wouldn't mind it so much if the conflicts were either interesting, the stakes were higher, or if we even had character development. Not to mention that all these conflicts could be solved so easy in one episode if the gang just went Super Saiyan. Like, look at this battle. Did they just forget that they already unlocked an ancient alien transformation? Throughout GT as a kid, every time when the gang was imperiled, I was like, turn Super Saiyan, turn Super Saiyan, turn Super Saiyan. Why aren't you using Super Saiyan? GT never explains why Goku and Trunks never just use Super Saiyan to solve the conflict. With Pan, she has an excuse. She can't turn Super Saiyan. But what's Goku and Trunks' excuse? You can make a headcanon that Goku is so strong that he doesn't need it, but look at the guy. He's struggling in his base form to fight this guy, and as stated before, the Earth is going to blow up. And what's Trunks' excuse? Yeah, Goku can be Goku, but Trunks is supposed to be the smart one of the group. Why isn't he using Super Saiyan? Are you telling me in this scene, Trunks would rather be dressing in drag than power up, knock the guy out, then cut his whiskers? 2 episodes saved, let's move on. Which brings me to the biggest problem of GT's Grand Tour. The plot feels like it's constantly put on pause. Each planet, each stop, each time the group tries to help someone out, it just feels like the show is just on a halt to focus on this very minimal problem that the gang can easily fix if they just took their mission seriously.
Well, what do you expect them to do? Just ignore people in need?
Glad you asked. Joe, can you take the lead?
You mentioned in GT how when they stopped and visit a planet, they would spend an average of 3 to 5 episodes. Well, it's not like that in Sonic X. In Sonic X, they will only visit a planet for 1 episode, 2 at most, but mainly they will only visit a planet for 1 episode, and then they'll move on to the next planet. They never stop and linger on a certain planet for a long period of time. Not only that, but each character gets to have their own episode on these planets. Each one get a unique character arc. We get episodes between Cosmo and Tails where it strengthens their relationship, an episode dedicated to Chris proving to himself that he's a part of the team, and even an episode where we get a glimpse into Sonic's dark side. Each episode follows the formula of landing on a new planet, characters searching for the Chaos Emerald and Planet Egg, and finding a new planet. There are no interruptions, no forced conflict, no unnecessary pit stops. It almost feels like a video game. As stated before, when GT had to stop and focus on a planet, it feels like the plot had been put on pause, while Sonic X feels like the opposite. Characters are developed, the plot is moved forward, while the issues of the episodes are resolved. While watching Sonic X, I was invested, entertained, and I felt like I was a kid again, watching this gang of mischief embark on their own journey across the stars to the point where I wish I was a part of their journey with them.
Ironically, the Grand Tour of GT was actually the worst part of the series, and it's not just me who thinks it. A bunch of other people admit that watching the first arc of GT felt like a chore for them. Some even gave up on the series entirely and returned to it in sometimes years. The worst thing you can do as a series is boring your audience. If kids don't even want to watch the first few episodes of your series, then you definitely did something wrong. In fact, the Grand Tour of Dragon Ball GT was so bad that the producers had to cut out other planets they planned out before to insert Baby to help bring back the story to what Z used to be. So the tone of GT is all over the place. The producers of GT wanted the Grand Tour to be returned to the original Dragon Ball's tone, where it was aimed more towards kids, have the gang visit different wacky places, and focus more on the comedy. But ironically, a lot of kids didn't like this new direction the franchise was taken and preferred Z's fight-centric storylines, so the series felt like a downgrade. B, in the original Dragon Ball, we are introduced to new characters along the way who either joined the gang or joined later on in the series. In GT, we are stuck with the Saiyan trio. We never met characters in space that would return as official new members of the Dragon Team, except Giru, who was pretty much kidnapped. And C, the original Dragon Ball was a gag manga. It focused more on the comedic fights and wacky scenarios where there's no good humor like that in GT.
Don't forget to smile! Don't forget to smile!
Like I said, good humor.
And with that being said, our final point goes to Sonic X, which means Sonic X is our winner. But these were just our opinions. What do y'all think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think GT is better? Let us know in the comments down below. And again, thank you to my friend Generation Defenders. Go check out her channel. If y'all been wondering where I've been at, I've been over at her channel helping her out with her fanfic Goten Black. I even guest stars in some of her videos. And go check out her Why I Hate Pan So Much. I agree with everything she says in that video. This has been Too Fast Joe. Remember, go fast, don't be last.